Did you know the gladiatorial games weren't just about bloodlust and death? Forget everything you thought you knew about these ancient spectacles. What if I told you gladiators were often celebrities, some even retired wealthy, and the games themselves were complex social and political events? Prepare to have your perceptions shattered. For centuries, Hollywood has painted the Colosseum as a place of endless slaughter, a brutal arena where doomed men fought for the amusement of a savage crowd. And yes, blood was spilled, swords clashed, men and beasts died. But the real story is far more intricate and far more human. The origins of gladiatorial combat trace back to funeral rites in the 3rd century BC, when aristocratic families staged fights as a way to honor the dead. These early contests weren't about mass entertainment. They were private, ritualized duels meant to display the virtues of courage, honor, and sacrifice. As Rome's influence grew, so did the scale of these events. By the late Republic, gladiator fights had moved from small funerary arenas into vast amphitheaters, attracting thousands. What began as solemn ritual evolved into one of the most popular and politically useful forms of mass entertainment in history. The stereotypical image of the gladiator as a doomed slave forced into the arena is only partly true. Many fighters were indeed prisoners of war, criminals, or enslaved people trained to fight. But others entered the arena by choice. These volunteers, known as octorati, signed contracts to fight for a fixed number of years in exchange for pay, prestige, and the chance to become famous. Some saw it as a path out of poverty. Others were thrill-seekers chasing glory. A successful gladiator could win not just freedom, but also land, wealth, and the adoration of fans. In a society obsessed with honor and spectacle, gladiators became a strange kind of celebrity. Their faces adorned oil lamps and mosaics. Graffiti in Pompeii praises specific fighters like modern sports fans cheer for their favorite athletes. Gladiators didn't just walk into the arena unprepared. They trained in specialized schools called ludi, run by a lanista, part coach, part manager, part businessman. Within the ludus, fighters honed their skills with wooden swords, practiced footwork, and learned the tactics specific to their fighting style. Gladiators weren't all the same. There were merlots with heavy helmets and broad swords, retieri uo fought with nets and tridents, and secutors who specialized in chasing down agile opponents. The variety kept audiences entertained and allowed for carefully staged matchups. Make no mistake, the training was grueling, but it also meant that many fights were not the chaotic slaughter we imagine. These were choreographed contests of skill and endurance, with referees enforcing rules and matches often ending without death. In Rome, public entertainment wasn't just for fun, it was a political tool. Ambitious politicians sponsored games to win public favor. A lavish spectacle could sway voters, reinforce loyalty to the emperor, or distract from political unrest. The Colosseum itself was a statement of imperial power. Built by Emperor Vespasian and completed under his son Titus, it could seat up to 50,000 spectators. Admission was free, and food was sometimes distributed to the crowd. The message was clear: Rome's leaders cared for their people, and they could afford to entertain them on a scale the world had never seen. The phrase panem et circenses, bread and circuses, perfectly sums up this political strategy. Keep the people fed and entertained, and they'll be less concerned with the affairs of state. It's true that gladiators could die in the arena, but not every fight ended in death. A skilled fighter was a valuable investment, and lanistae were reluctant to see their best men killed. The crowd might call for missio, a reprieve, if a gladiator had fought bravely. Even emperors sometimes spared defeated fighters to maintain the spectacle's balance. However, when death did come, it was quick and decisive. A wounded fighter who was refused mercy would kneel and accept the killing blow, a grim but honorable end in the eyes of Roman society. The gladiatorial games were big business. Beyond ticketed events, money flowed through betting, merchandising, and even the sale of gladiators' personal items. Armorers, animal traders, costume makers, and builders all profited from the spectacle. This economic engine kept thousands employed, from the sandrakers who cleared the arena to the shipwrights who built special effects for mock naval battles. As Christianity spread through the empire, attitudes toward the games began to shift. By the 5th century, a gladiatorial tradition faded, hastened by the economic decline of the empire and changing moral values. The last recorded gladiator fights in Rome were held in 404 a-day arenas. Once echoing with the roar of the crowd, fell silent. Many were repurposed as fortresses, markets, or quarries. Yet their stone walls still stand as monuments to a time when sport, politics, and spectacle were inseparable. The gladiatorial games were not simple blood sports. They were a mirror of Roman society, its ambitions, its hierarchies, its thirst for entertainment, and its ability to turn even violence into an art form. They reveal a civilization that valued skill, discipline, and honor as much as spectacle. So the next time you picture the Colosseum, don't just see sand stained with blood. See the faces of the fighters, the roar of the crowd, the political maneuvering in the stands, and the complex web of society that made these games possible. Because Rome's gladiators weren't just fighters. They were symbols of power, of survival, and of a world where the arena was the stage upon which the empire itself was performed.